Welcome back. In this session, we will understand more about the threat actor categories, understanding who's attacking and why. Once you understand that cybercrime operates as an industry, the next question becomes unavoidable. Who are the participants in that industry? Not all cyber threats come from the same place. Not all attackers want the same thing. And not all attacks behave the same way once they begin. Treating every cyber incident as if it were caused by the same type of adversary leads to confusion, misaligned defenses, and unrealistic expectations. To think clearly about cyber risk, you need to understand intent. Technology changes constantly, tools evolve, techniques mutate, but motivation is far more stable. When you understand why someone is attacking, you gain insight into how they are likely to behave, how patient they will be, how much risk they will tolerate, and when they are likely to stop. This section introduces a practical way to classify cyber threat actors, not by skill level or tools, but by motivation and objectives. Why hacker is the wrong mental model. The word hacker is often used as a catch all label. It suggests a single type of adversary, technically skilled, curious, and focused on breaking systems. In reality, that label hides more than it reveals. Most modern cyber incidents are not driven by curiosity, they are driven by incentives. Some attackers want money, some want access, some want influence, and some want disruption. Others want to exploit trust or proximity, and these motivations shape everything about how an attack unfolds. Understanding this allows you to move beyond surface level descriptions and toward predictive reasoning. A motivation based classification. While the cyber threat landscape is complex and overlapping, most attackers fall into one of the four broad categories: organized cybercriminal groups, nation state or state sponsored actors, ideologically motivated groups, and insider threats. These categories are not rigid, they overlap, collaborate, and sometimes imitate each other. But they provide a useful framework for understanding behavior. Organized cybercriminal groups, profit and efficiency. Organized cybercriminal groups are the most common source of cyber incidents across industries. Their primary motivation is financial gain. These groups operate pragmatically. They are not emotionally invested in targets. They do not seek attention unless it serves a purpose. They focus on what produces reliable returns. Their defining characteristics are speed, scale, and adaptability. They target whatever offers the best return on investment given current conditions. That might be data, access, disruption, or leverage. If one tactic becomes less effective, they move on quickly. This is why cybercriminal activity tends to follow patterns. When a new vulnerability emerges, attacks spike. When defenses improve, attackers shift to alternative techniques. When automation becomes available, volume increases. These actors behave like businesses responding to market conditions. Importantly, they're not necessarily highly technical. Many rely on purchased tools, outsourced access, and automation. Skill is less important than coordination and efficiency. Nation state and state sponsored actors, the strategic objectives. Nation state actors operate under a fundamentally different incentive structure. Their objectives may include intelligence gathering, long term access, influence operations, or strategic disruption. Financial gain may be incidental, secondary, or absent altogether. These actors are often patient. They may maintain access to systems for extended periods without triggering obvious disruption. Their goal is not immediate impact, but positioning. They are willing to invest time and resources to remain undetected because they operate under political or strategic constraints. They often avoid noisy actions that could expose their involvement. Attribution matters. Escalation carries consequences. This makes their activity harder to detect and harder to interpret. A lack of visible damage does not imply a lack of risk. It also means that response strategies differ. Actions that might deter criminal groups may have little effect on state sponsored actors. Ideologically motivated groups, visibility and symbolism. Ideologically motivated groups, often referred to as hacktivists, are driven by beliefs rather than profit. Their objectives may include protest, exposure, embarrassment, or disruption. They often target organizations as symbols rather than for intrinsic value. For these actors, visibility is part of the outcome. Public defacement, data leaks, or service disruption may be intended to draw attention to a cause rather than extract value. Technical sophistication varies widely, but impact is often amplified through messaging and media coverage. Even when technical damage is limited, reputational or operational consequences can be significant. This category illustrates an important point. Cyber impact is not always proportional to technical effort. Perception matters. Insider threats, access as the defining feature. Insider threats are defined not by ideology or nationality, but by access. An insider may be an employee, contractor, partner, or anyone with legitimate credentials. Motivation varies widely. Some insiders act maliciously, others act negligently. Some are manipulated, coerced, or pressured by external actors. What makes insider threats particularly dangerous is that they operate within trusted boundaries. They understand systems, they know processes, their actions often appear legitimate, and traditional defenses designed to stop external attackers may not apply. It is also important to recognize that most insider incidents are not driven by malice. They result from convenience, misunderstanding, or conflicting incentives. From a risk perspective, intent matters less than impact. Why motivation shapes behavior? Understanding motivation allows you to anticipate behavior. Profit driven actors prioritize efficiency and reliability. Strategic actors prioritize stealth and persistence. Ideological actors prioritize visibility and disruption. Insiders exploit proximity and trust. These differences influence how attacks begin, how they escalate, and how they end. They also influence what attackers are willing to risk. Some actors accept exposure, others avoid it. Some are patient, others are opportunistic. This is why one size fits all responses fail. The role of AI in blurring categories. Artificial intelligence has begun to blur traditional distinctions between threat actors. Capabilities once limited to advanced actors are now widely available. Automation enables scale. Sophisticated techniques can be replicated cheaply. As a result, behaviors overlap. Criminal groups may exhibit patience once associated with nation state actors. Ideological groups may use tools developed for profit driven attacks. State sponsored actors may leverage criminal infrastructure to obscure attribution. What remains stable is intent. This is why motivation based thinking remains useful even as tools converge. Why attribution is often uncertain and why that's okay. It is tempting to want certainty about who's responsible for an incident. In practice, attribution is often ambiguous, delayed, or incomplete. From a risk management perspective, perfect attribution is not always necessary. What matters most is understanding plausible intent and likely behavior. That understanding informs response decisions, escalation thresholds, and communication strategies. Cybersecurity is not a courtroom. It is an adversarial environment where decisions must often be made under uncertainty. And why this matters for you? You may never formally classify a threat actor. You may never investigate an intrusion, but your assumptions influence decisions. If you assume all attackers behave the same way, you will misjudge risk. If you assume all incidents are opportunistic, you may miss long term exposure. If you assume all threats are external, you may overlook internal vulnerabilities. Understanding threat actors at this level gives you context. It allows you to interpret incidents realistically. It helps you understand why certain controls exist. It explains why some risks are persistent and others are episodic. Most importantly, it reinforces a central idea. Cybersecurity is not about technology alone, it is about human intent operating within digital systems. That idea will continue to guide you as we move forward.